I'm Alan Weiss, and this is The Writing on the Wall. Welcome back to Writing on the Wall. This episode is called Suffering. There's a Polynesian drink, you'll find it in all the Polynesian restaurants, called a suffering bastard. And sometimes we all feel that way, hence the drink. But pain is involuntary, suffering is voluntary. And we decide how much we suffer. Suffering sometimes is tremendous and profound, the loss of a loved one. Sometimes it's rather minor, doing a chore you don't like. I suffer through personal training. I have a personal trainer 3 times a week when I'm home for over 10 years, and I suffer through it. I still hate it. I never like it. I don't like anything about it. But I do it because the greater suffering would be not being able to eat the food I enjoy, or drink the wine I like, or engage in the activities that bring me pleasure. And so the greater suffering causes me to endure more happily the short-term suffering. It's short-term versus long. It's now versus mediocrity for life. A lot of people don't want to put in the work now. They don't want to make the call for the referral. They don't want to follow up with a client. They don't want to write something. But in return, they're going to suffer for a long time because their business will be mediocre. World champions sacrifice socialization. They sacrifice going to the prom, they sacrifice foods, they sacrifice friendships, they sacrifice where they live to become world champions. And so there is a suffering, there's a loss. But it's not as great as the suffering of being an also-ran. People won't suffer through making a phone call. Can you imagine? They won't pick up the phone and call for a referral. In college, I didn't drink, contrary to today, but I had no interest in drinking in college. And instead I went to the newspaper office. And I found kindred spirits there. And I became an assistant editor of the newspaper, and I eventually was editor-in-chief of the newspaper at Rutgers. And I won 8 awards. 8 scholastic, journalistic awards. And I didn't regret those beers that I missed, or painting the campus walls, or all those kinds of things. No one escapes indicators of going through life afraid. In other words, when you're afraid, it's obvious. When you're afraid, it carries over. Just like when you're enthusiastic, it's contagious and infectious. The same thing when you're fearful. So, do you create suffering or do you create opportunity? Do you see something as a threat or something that you can take advantage of and leverage and use as a springboard? How do you look at these things? Now, the great book, The Agony and the Ecstasy, they made a movie, and here's Michelangelo, painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. And he's on his back for long hours, and he's having trouble with the plaster and trouble with the paints, how to make his own paints. They wouldn't adhere. Plaster had to be wet to a certain degree, not too much, not too little, and paints this magnificent ceiling. He suffered a lot, short term, to give something to the ages that 1,000 years later, people are still looking at in awe. The vet says to me, the veterinarian, that dogs are stoic, that they don't reveal pain. It's hard to tell because they choose not to suffer. You see, dogs, they're very intelligent.